Welcome to another episode of The Creative Minds. Joining me here today is Kristine Faza. And so, Kristine, can you tell me a bit more about who you are and what is it that you do?
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, Aida.
Of course.
Um, my name is Kristine. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist, certified health coach, and certified yoga instructor. I also have an honors Bachelor of Life Science degree from McMaster University.
Mm,
So I'm all about entrepreneurship, I guess,
yeah,
and starting your own businesses and basically like making your own opportunities instead of waiting for them to come to you. I
yeah.
think that's something that I really like to do. It's like I'm not gonna wait for
Mm,
something to come my way. I'm just gonna go and get it myself or create it myself.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I feel like I could just already start getting into a spiel. So
yeah, yeah. No,
I'll
no worries. So, you talked about you also like mentioned as well on your Instagram page that you're like a health coach, a nutritionist as well. So, what does it mean when someone comes and asks you like, what does it mean to be a health coach? Like, can you define that?
yeah, for sure. So
Mm,
that's a good question because I feel like not a lot of people know
yeah,
about health coaching. It is a really growing uh, sector right
yeah,
now. It's basically someone who will hold you accountable to what your goals are, help you work through them, figure out exactly like what it is that you want, break it down, and then just almost like hold your hand throughout the way by like keeping you accountable to it.
yeah.
It depends on the type of health coach, I guess. For me, my focus is on all areas of your life.
Mm, mm,
So whereas like a life coach might just focus on like careers or relationship, like as
mm,
a health coach we really look at all areas of your life. So
mm,
this includes like spirituality, your nutrition, your exercise, your home environment, um, again like as well as your career and all of that. But it all comes into the little circle of life or your wheel of life, and we evaluate all those different areas, and depending on where you land on them and how you're feeling, we go from there and being like, okay, so maybe education wise you're not really feeling too satisfied in this area, let's
mm,
work on that. What's
mm,
something that you want to do to increase that, like what would make you feel more satisfied of that area in your life? And we
mm,
look at that for each area, and then
mm,
we really break it down and then make it bite sized, and
mm,
then together every month we set like a plan, and then I hold you accountable to it. There's like a whole little ongoing
mm,
relationship there.
mm,
But yeah, so it's something that a lot of people really benefit from, especially because sometimes we have all of these ideas in our head but we can't break it down, or
yeah,
we can't hold ourselves accountable. You kind of need someone to make sure that you're doing
yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
So as a health coach, that was a really fun part, and I really enjoyed doing that and working with clients from all different ages and areas, time in their life, which is interesting. Like I was working with a mother, I was working with someone in their 30s, I was working with someone in their 20s,
Mm,
someone in their 50s at one point. So
yeah.
it's nice that everyone can really benefit from this practice.
Mm,
And in the US, I believe too that they're really starting to branch out and work with doctors as well, because we spend a lot of our time really going into detail with you about
mm,
exactly what's going on.
mm,
And like the time where sometimes doctors don't have that time to be able to spend like to go through that, we can do that for them.
mm,
So working together is actually a really great collaboration. And I
yeah.
think that people think that the holistic side is very separate from that, but actually it's starting to come together now, which
Mm,
is really beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great work that can be done
Yeah.
from health coaching.
Yeah. So how did you get to that like how was your childhood like? Did your childhood kind of dictate you to go into that path?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have four younger siblings.
Yeah.
So I feel like as the
Yeah.
eldest of five,
Yeah.
I definitely needed to assume responsibility
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
able to take care of others.
Yeah.
So I think that set me up for that,
Yeah.
and as a child, from what my grandma would say, or like she would like recall little things
Yeah.
that my dad would always make sure that like I was always very responsible for things. Like if I lost something, I was in trouble. It's just like, why were you not
Yeah.
responsible for things?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
I need to make sure that all of my stuff was getting done. So I
Yeah.
think that was kind of drilled into me.
Yeah.
And then I became like a creature of habit, and I love having routine and plans and breaking things down, because like for myself, I feel like I'm always like up in my head, you know, it's always like the big ideas and the
Yeah.
vision and all of that. When I'm telling someone, they're like, okay,
Yeah.
but you're up here. Like
Yeah.
you need to come all the way, like
Yeah.
you're not even close to that. Like you need
Yeah.
to tune it back. So I think I had to learn that with myself, of like how to like come back and break things down. And I'm like a very visual person too, so I learned different ways of what makes sense for me. Like I have like a little whiteboard beside me here with like
Yeah.
I can show you like all my little ideas.
Oh,
Like I
nice.
just like jot
Nice.
things down
Yeah.
and break it apart and then put them into little pieces of my calendar.
Every successful person kind of says that I have a morning habit, morning routine habit, or like an evening routine habit, right? And the thing is, you start really becoming so obsessed with trying to follow their own routine and habits. So then you get so frustrated because you're not following through, and then you end up like crashing. So for you, why do you believe having like a routine or a habit is essential for you? And what is the habit that you kind of encountered that works for you specifically?
Yeah. So for me, I guess I like having that sense of control. So being in like a sort of routine and habit makes me feel like I do have that control. So something for me is, okay, in the morning, first thing I do is I try not to get on my phone and take a minute to just like say a little affirmations, you know, whatever it is, just kind of tune your subconscious mind, take a minute. On my peak times when I was really in the zone, I would just get up right away, set my little pillow on the floor, face the window, and just put on the Deepak Chopra meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, his 21 days,
Yeah.
21 days meditations are incredible. And I did the full 21 days. I swear, like something crazy was happening. I started seeing like spirits and stuff. I don't know if I was going crazy, but like
Yeah.
I swear, like things were really. It was, yeah. I definitely think it's everyone needs to try it at least once.
Oh my God. Yeah.
A magical experience. But anyways, yeah, so I would do that, and I usually have like my full water bottle, fill it up with water and drink that first thing in the morning, like add some lemon, take my time, and then okay, like maybe do some yoga, exercise, shower, eat, and then go onto my phone and do the whole thing. But that's like when you're really at your best. But of course, life is not always like that, you know, and if you are really busy, you need to be able to adapt to that as well and not panic when you can't do your habits, you know. So it's like, okay, if for example my schedule changed, I started to have class in the morning, and personally I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. to be able to do all these things. Like it's not that doesn't work for me, you know. I sleep. Which is also a thing, because I think that people are always like, you need to get up at 5 a.m. to be productive. I'm like, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's like another thing as well. But being able to adapt to that, so it's like, okay, maybe I wake up just 5 more minutes earlier. What's most important to have my meditation time? Okay, I can do that. Everything else I can do in class, do after class. It's not a problem. So I think the thing with that as well, like what you were saying, is that first of all, my habits don't work for everybody. So like this routine probably won't work for you, right? Or someone else. So working with clients is really important to take that into account, like to account for that. So it's like working with whatever works best for them. So it's like, okay, what would make sense for you? Can you do that or no? If not, okay, let's find an alternative, right? And then again, being able to just adapt and change depending on your situation.
And how did you find your routine? Because I think that's something that people have challenges with, like finding a routine that fits them specifically. So what advice do you have for someone to find that routine?
Yeah. To find your routine.
Yeah.
I think whatever doesn't stress you out more. Like if it's gonna stress you out to get up and to meditate or like to go for like a 10-mile run before you start your day, like I feel like that's just not going to work with you. So really just sit down with yourself and think of like, what can I actually do that's not going to really stress me out? And of course you have to try little things here and there. It's going to be like a trial and error, but you know, trying something that might be slightly out of your comfort zone isn't totally wrong if you think that it is a positive change in the long run. But again, you know, just doing little things, one thing at a time. So like maybe you're just gonna add in like doing your bed in the morning, because that's also one of the habits that I do. So it's like, you get out of bed, just make your bed. That could be the one thing that you do, and then slowly it's like, okay, that was doable, and it starts to become like a habit. over a week or two, and then you start to notice a little bit of a change. You know, you feel like your space is more tidy. You feel, you know, you can, I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
or just like you put that to go. So it's like that your bed's done. You can move on with your day. You get out of bed. And then it's like, okay, now maybe I can add in a 5-minute meditation. It's like, okay, you have time for that. That's good. And then it's like, oh, I can actually do a little bit longer than that. Slowly it becomes 10 minutes, 15, like whatever it is. I think adding in first one thing at a time, really small, and then adding in things after that, and then having a more of a routine that you would ideally like to have.
100%. And you talked a lot about affirmations and meditation. Many people also kind of have their own beliefs about affirmations and they don't really believe in it. Why do you believe in affirmations?
Yes, that's a good question. I have heard that as well. You know, people are just like, oh, I just say my affirmations, like that's not going to do anything for me.
Yeah.
However, again, I guess everything is subjective. Like it's whatever works best for you. Some people prefer prayer. Some people prefer, you know, journaling instead, or, you know, so there are different methods. But for me personally, it depends on, for example, people who really talk negatively about themselves to themselves. You know what I mean? Like sometimes do you ever notice if you have those little words behind your head being saying, you know, I can't do that, or, you know, like you can't achieve that, or oh, you're upset today, or let's just have a bad day, whatever it is, you know. So sometimes again, like that comes from childhood. If like someone kept saying that to you as a kid, then it just becomes like replays in your head. So it depends on what method works best for you. But if you do have like a lot of negative self-talk, maybe it is good to try using affirmations just to change your internal dialogue with yourself, you know. So maybe if you do have like a great dialogue with yourself and you feel like that doesn't really do anything for you, you can try doing other things like journaling, just writing out your thoughts for the day, maybe having like a moment of gratitude, maybe having like a moment of prayer. I never think that, I mean, there is never a bad time to express gratitude. I don't think like no matter what, it's always good to express that, you know. I don't think that that's ever a bad thing. But in terms of affirmations as well, like going back to what I was saying from my personal experience, okay, I know it sounds really crazy, but I swear like it really works. I started saying this one thing. It's funny actually, I got it off like a psychologist on TikTok or something, that she would say to herself every day. And I would say it, and I swear, like the things that I was just saying actually started happening in my life. Like even, you know, when you say that you just say something, even though it's not there right now, but then it'll come, like all of it came. It's the craziest thing.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean, again, it's my personal belief. And for me, I do think that there is like power in it. And it's kind of fun to see like when it actually does happen and you're like, whoa, I used to say these things. But you know, again, to each their own. I don't think that there is a right or wrong. If someone doesn't really believe in that, that's okay.
But you said that, so first of all, like what do you mean by affirmations, for anyone who does not know? And then second of all is I thought affirmation is that, let's say I'm healthy, I am fit, so those are affirmations, right? But then you said it manifested kind of in your life. Can you explain that part?
Yeah, sorry, I feel like so for affirmations, it's just something that you are affirming to yourself about who you are, right? So it's like, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm happy. So you're just kind of conditioning yourself that this is who you are, what you're experiencing. So there was a part of that, I'm just trying to like replay it in my head, like what I say is so after I do my little affirmation part, then I say like a thank you for this, and then those things started to show up in my life. Okay. Sorry, I should have clarified. Okay. So I go like, I am this, and then thank you for this, and then they start to like appear in your life.
Okay, makes sense.
I guess it's the gratitude.
100%. And don't you think though that is a false positivity? Because within you, you don't really believe that you're it, but you're telling yourself it, then you're in a state of like, what's really real? Then is this really true? I don't believe in it. Why should I even say it? And people stop. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because I think toxic positivity also became a topic of discussion, and
Yes.
we started to discuss that in my friend group as well. Especially as yoga instructors, I feel
Yeah.
like there can be a lot of toxic positivity
Mm,
sometimes.
yeah.
Again, with the affirmations, I feel like it depends on. That's a good question. I feel
Yeah.
like, what do
Yeah.
you think about it? What are your thoughts on it?
Because well, people say that fake it till you make it. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't have 100% answer. Definitely, like definite answer for that. But
Yeah.
I don't believe in fake it till you make it. So that's why I was like asking you, is there like it's
Mm.
you if you don't really believe that you are it, saying this over and over to yourself, does it really um get you to a place where you start believing it?
Mhm.
I'm not really sure. That's why I was asking, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think that
Yeah.
there is some sort of like training and change into your subconscious that might go
Yeah.
into that. Um, and again, it's like I'm not thinking of crazy things. It's more of like I am strong, I am fit, I am healthy. So they're
Yeah.
not like things that, I am a huge business owner of like
Yeah.
$1 million, like that's not what I would be referring to. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what if, like, let's say, what if you're a person who's like extremely overweight and you tell yourself, I'm fit, I'm healthy, I'm strong? Isn't this like kind of, uh, like, it's kind of you telling yourself a thing that you're actually not based on science? Like, maybe, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, no, I understand
yeah.
what you're saying. I think that like it kind of goes full circle. So like if that person is trying hard to change
Mm,
and they are making a difference or they're working out, and
mm,
maybe some days they're lacking a little bit of motivation, like they can look at themselves in the mirror saying like I'm on the
mm.
right track, like I'm
Okay.
healthy, I'm getting healthy, I'm working on it. I
Okay.
think it's in that way, but again, it's like if I am
Oh.
just like overweight and I'm staring at myself in the mirror saying I'm fit, yeah, that doesn't really that doesn't really make a lot of
Okay. Okay. I think we found the gap there. So it's kind of
okay.
like when you're actually taking action
Yes.
towards bettering yourself, then you're
Yes.
saying those words of affirmation, then that's kind of where you motivate yourself and stay going on.
Yes. So
Yes.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. I
Yeah.
think it's all about the action, right? All
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
mental is preparing for the action or it
Yeah.
is going hand in hand with the action. So it's
Yes.
like if there is no action, then yes, of course, like everything
Mm.
you can say to yourself is not gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly
Yeah.
it perfectly. It's
Yeah.
also like the same thing with like fake it till you make it. So it's like even with manifesting or all these things in the spiritual world, it's
Mm.
not like you're supposed to just sit down and write what you want to manifest and then expect it to fall into your lap. And I think that's the same thing with even like anything, even I think with prayer or whatever it is, like if you're asking for something or whatever, it's not like you're just gonna sit there and expect God to just drop it for you, right? It's like
Yeah.
you need to be doing some actions toward it. So if you're like, I am employed at
Yeah.
my dream company, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you can start putting that into your head, but it's like put that into action. So maybe
Mm.
start looking for what they're looking for.
What are your thoughts on meditation? Because you talked about words of affirmation, then meditation. So in your opinion, what does meditation mean for you?
Mm. Yeah, I think for me personally, because I am very like sometimes I'm just everywhere, or
Mm.
like mentally too much in my head or
Yeah.
too many thoughts, and it's like our little monkey brain jumping from
Yeah.
one thing to the other. I feel like for me meditation is quieting my mind, sitting like putting myself to just
Yeah.
relax, not be moving, because sometimes I feel like I'm just constantly moving or I need to be
Yeah.
touching things or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like really training myself to calm all of that down, to quiet my mind and just quiet my thoughts and just focus on my breath and really just allow what needs to come up, but
Mm.
just acknowledging that it's there and then letting it go. So not really thinking about, oh, I need to eat something later and then playing it on, okay, like what should I eat? Maybe I should eat this. Oh, I didn't eat this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the
Yeah.
thought's there, acknowledge it, let it go, and then
Yes.
come back to just the quiet.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but the thing about meditation and I think it's important to talk about is that it's not the same for everyone, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, you know? Like, I think that sometimes people try to meditate, or people who are really anxious try and meditate, and they're just like, I tried it, it was the worst thing ever, it just made me more anxious, like I can't do it, this and that. And I think that there is like, yeah, that's true, that does happen to a lot of people. But well, if we think back about when meditation kind of started, or who it was by like monks or yogis or whoever it was, who were like out in the field all day. They're moving their bodies, they're moving from one place to the other, and then they come back and then they sit and have this moment, right? But for us now, we spend a lot of our time sitting at our computers, like at home. We're not really active and moving so much that it might be too hard for us to, again, just sit down more and be in silence, right? So what you can find as an alternative would be try a walking meditation. So you're walking, so you're moving your body, but just being very mindful of like what your surroundings are like, what is noise like, instead of having our headphones in all the time, or like talking to someone on the phone when you're walking, to just make it more of a meditation, like a moving meditation. The best time to meditate would be after doing yoga. So the asanas, which are the yoga poses, are meant to be done just to prepare your body for meditation. So again, it's like you're moving your body, you're getting the energy moving, you're getting that out, and then you can come down and meditate. So it's like that little difference between what it was like back in the day and how our lives are so different now, that you can change that and maybe try a moving meditation, you know, or just trying to be mindful when you're brushing your teeth, of just like thinking about it as you're doing it, not thinking about, okay, today I have to do this and this and this, or like even while you're washing the dishes, like just being very present and, you know, being in the now. I think just helps to make everything more like mindful, and almost becomes like a little meditation.
Do you think that everyone has this challenge of having like this monkey brain, of constantly having thoughts jumping from one thing to another, or do you think this could be like ADHD or OCD or like right?
No, yeah, I get that. I do slightly think that sometimes like OCD or an ADHD is like overly prescribed in a way. Like I think that nowadays it's just, or even as like people our age, we always just say it so freely when it's not true. Like if someone just likes to have their pen here, they're like, oh my god, I have OCD. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, you don't. But we just say it so freely now, and everyone just kind of like diagnoses themselves with it. Just they're like, oh, I like to have my room tidy, I have OCD. Like, or it's like, oh, I like to jump around, I have ADHD. But and even especially for kids, I think that too, because you know, diets are very different now, and children eat a lot more sugar than they should. So it's like, no, maybe your child doesn't have ADHD. Maybe they're just having like so much sugar for breakfast and they can't sit down in class, you know? So I think that like it you know, there is a little bit of a gap there, I feel. But in terms of your question of, do I think that everybody has this monkey brain?
Again, it's your thoughts though. So
yeah, I feel like my own personal opinion, I can't say for sure because I don't know everyone's mind. But I do think that some people are able to really like focus on just one thing and you know, just do that for a little bit. But maybe because we do have like this tendency now with all of our devices and everything, that we get so distracted that it like splits that up for us, you know? So it's like, okay, maybe I'm like focusing on my computer, but then my phone rings, so like I'm paying attention to that, and then I come back to this. It's like maybe someone like sends me an email, so then I'm checking this. It's like our attention gets divided up so much now that it's like it's not really our fault. Maybe it just that's what, like my phone just lit up and I looked immediately. Like that's like it's like those little things, you know, that we've changed over time. We're not just sitting in like a cave with a candle about one thing, you know what I mean?
But then where do you think the world is heading towards? Because we're already so distracted enough, we're so disconnected from our bodies, we're always reacting instead of like responding to things, and so much consumed in our minds. So what do you think the future is going to be for our kids and the next coming generations as well?
Yeah, it definitely scares me a little bit
Yeah.
because I see it from my younger siblings. So my
Yeah.
youngest sister, she is 12, and then my
Mm,
brother is 14.
mm,
So I see it from them, the difference between what they engage in as activities and how they
mm,
are versus how I was a kid. I was
mm,
as a kid.
mm.
Um, I think that, you know, definitely technology plays a part in this that makes it, you know, it's hard to capture their attention.
Mm.
Um, there was even like one kid I would babysit who like just you can't really get through to her, but she would just have the iPad and like that was it. Like if you're talking to her, she's just not even there. She's
Yeah.
just like so consumed
Yeah.
by the iPad. And she would only like be entertained by that and would only want that, you know, and wouldn't
Mm,
really communicate or anything else. It's like
yeah.
she just wanted that and that was it.
Yeah.
So I do think that we do have a responsibility to make sure that we can teach some of these practices to the
Mm,
younger generations and to our
mm,
kids of how to disconnect, how to be mindful, how to
mm,
meditate.
mm.
And like you said again, like reconnecting to our body, because I do think
Yeah.
that there is a very big disconnect from that
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I do think that we do have a role in that to make sure that, you know, we don't all end up like on ADHD
Yeah.
medication.
You talked about the prayer. So how is meditation different than prayer, different than words of affirmation? What does that prayer mean to you? Or spirituality? You mentioned spirituality as well. So
Mhm.
are they similar? Are they different?
I think that for some people, praying is like a meditation, you
Mm,
know, because it's like you're just repeating maybe like this one prayer over and over again, and you're sitting in silence and you're being really mindful. And
mm,
uh, yeah, I do think that it is very similar to meditation. It just
mm.
depends on what
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
believe, what you do, you know?
Yeah, no, I love the fact that you mentioned because I didn't think about this, I think earlier, where you said that it's similar to meditation because you're getting like, let's say, one thing and
Mhm.
repeating it over and over again, that it becomes
Mhm.
a meditation. Isn't, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
yeah,
like even with like the rosary,
yeah,
even for in yogis, they have like their own beads as well. So it's
yeah,
like there is so many similarities between, you know, like a specific religion or just like spirituality
yeah,
and meditation and stuff.
yeah.
There are just like those little repetitive
Mm,
things that you're doing or saying to yourself.
mm,
So I think
mm, mm,
it's all really great and a
yeah.
little form of meditation that everyone like. Yeah.
So what kind of drove you into that? Like what kind of like what was like a low point in your life or the worst moment in your life that kind of had to shake you to a point of wanting to be connected more to your body or wanting to figure those other aspects of your life?
Yeah, that's a really great question actually, because I have a very real answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so for me, what happened was that I started to have like severe anxiety. And I want to say it started like around first year university, maybe like the end of first year
Mm,
towards like second year. Um, and it was really bad. Like there was a summer where I couldn't even leave the house. I couldn't drive anymore because I was just like so anxious, so panicky all the time that I couldn't even get behind the wheel and drive. Or I hated being home alone. I wouldn't want to go anywhere by myself. Like I would only go to the gym with my sister and come back and like stay home. That was literally it. Like
wow.
I hated it when it get like nighttime. I was just like it was super panicky. It was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, this is kind of really what got me into what I'm doing in everything that I'm doing actually,
Mm,
because I started to realize what was happening, and two things were happening. First, of
mm,
course, mental, but you know, from a holistic nutritionist perspective, that does connect to your gut, and that's when I really started to see that gut brain connection from,
mm,
you know, living through it.
mm.
So what had happened was that during high school, I obviously, like any teenage girl, I didn't love my skin. So I would go to the doctor and I was like, hey, you know, I need it fixed. Like I want it to be
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And so like what the traditional thing to do would just be like to prescribe antibiotics.
Mm,
So I took a bunch of antibiotics throughout high school. even like topical and internal ones.
Mm.
I ran out of all the tetracyclines that you could take. That's like all of the ones that you take for your skin. That we started doing the topical stuff, and it was like, okay, you know, wasn't really sorting out what was going on. Anyway, so years go by, or like a year or two, I've literally tried everything. And then the doctor was like, okay, well, now you can try Accutane. And I don't know if you're familiar with Accutane. Yeah. So it's basically just like overdosing on vitamin A. It's a very powerful medication that you have to go and get your liver tested every month to make sure, like, it's so and you actually, like, you have to sign a contract, like you have to sign something to say that if you refuse taking the birth control when you're on it, because like if you do get pregnant, your baby will not be okay. So you have to, like, they have to give you birth control with it, or you have to sign something saying that you refuse to take the birth control. So you can just see like the intensity of medication, right? But of course, I had not known any better. I was just like in high school going into first year university, and I wanted good skin. And my parents didn't know any better, because when they were younger, they were put on it. They were like, yeah, like, you'll be fine. So I took it, and I took it for a year. And then after that is really when I just started to see things go downhill. So on top of my whole like gut microbiome being completely destroyed, of course, and my whole body was just being a mess internally, plus the stress of school, and I wasn't eating well, because, you know, first year you're just eating like cat food all the time and stuff, not great. And, you know, you're stressed out, everything. So like mentally, physically was not doing well. I started to gain weight, and I'm like the same size a lot. And I came home for Thanksgiving, my parents were like, I was like, okay, noted. And I think from then I was like, okay, I need to start changing something in my life. So the anxiety started to come in from there. And now I know that's because my gut microbiome was a mess. And so I started to go to the gym very frequently. I started to change my diet completely. Going back to school, like my roommate and I made it like a thing. We started eating a lot healthier. We started buying our own groceries. So that's how I learned to make really nutritious meals, and like affordable ones as well, because I was a student, and quick ones. It's like, you're not making a gourmet meal for yourself. So I learned how to do all of that. And then again, making routine for myself is kind of like where it started. So I was like, okay, if I need to go to the gym today, and I need to get my groceries, and I do this. So it's like, I'd build a little schedule, and then you play like little games with yourself. So sometimes I'd realize that like I'd go to school and then cancel on the gym, being like, you know, I'm tired now, I'm not going. But what I would do is like changing your little habits. It's like, okay, I'll ride my bike to school. So it's like, okay, I did a little bit of exercise there. And then I would put my gym clothes in the gym and like in the locker when I first get there. So it's like, it's already there. And then I'd go to class, go to library, do all the things, pack my own lunches so I wasn't buying cat food. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I can't leave my things in the gym. Like, I have to go get them. And it's like, you're already there. So you put on the outfit and then you work out, you know? So it's like those little things, you know? It's like how you play with yourself a little bit. But so it started through that. And then a big part of it, again, was yoga. And I started doing yoga when I was younger. Like my parents kind of put me into that, but it was never really consistent as we moved back and forth, like to the Middle East. Actually, I never really continued it when we lived there. But then coming back, I kind of got into it. And then during those times when we'd go to the gym, I went to a yoga class and found like one teacher that you really just love, and you start going to it. And it's like the words that they say to you throughout your practice that you start to like carry with you throughout your day, which really resonated with me. And then the practice of yoga is really what just helped me connect back to my body, of what you were saying, like coming back, because like at first I would always be at the back of the class, right? I felt uncomfortable. I didn't know all of the poses of what she was saying. It was hard. Like it was a hot class. So I would just sit at the back and like look around at everyone. I'd like admire other people, being like, oh my God, like she's so great. How is she doing that? Whatever. And then over time, it's like you build a little bit more confidence, and maybe you move up like the row in the class. And it's just like the whole practice, because you're just being so mindful about your breath with every movement. Like you don't have time to think about anything else or be anxious about anything. I'm like, okay, my hand's going here, like my other hand's going here, and just like feeling everything in your body, pressing down into your mat, like just getting so grounded and reconnecting with my body that over time, that is seriously what helped me like overcome the last little mental anxiety that I was going through. And there were times where it was like I would go to a yoga class and I would literally just lay there and cry, like, or like sometimes I couldn't even move, but like just going every time and just showing up on your mat, being in the community with people, listening to what the teacher has to say, even if you're not even moving. It's just like, okay, you're there, you're releasing, like whatever it is, you're reconnecting to yourself, you're having that time with yourself. And then over time it just became like medicine to me. Like just doing it all the time, and again, like just reconnecting mind, body, spirit. And it's really funny sometimes when I think about the story, when I think back to when I first started, because now it's like, okay, now I'm the teacher, so it's like I always try and really have memorable moments for the students. Like when I'm saying things, I want to make sure that it's very real and maybe something that they could take throughout their day. But again, like, okay, side note, but I guess it's just kind of like for people who always wanted to try something or they're not sure, it's like, as a yoga teacher, it wasn't like I started knowing everything from the start. I started at the back of the class looking around at people, like didn't know what to do. And now it's like, then I started to move up in the class, move forward, like maybe go in the front row. And then it was only after like years and years where I felt like, okay, now I can take my yoga teacher training and actually be like a teacher,
Yeah.
But
so you mentioned in the beginning where you were not able to go to the gym alone or even drive alone. You needed someone to be with you, or at nighttime you get anxious. What caused that? Like, why did you want to be around people, and why is it not being around people that caused you anxiety?
Yeah, I honestly still can't really tell you. I'm not quite sure of what was going on, but it's not like I was ever alone too. Like I'm always around people. When I was at home, I mean, we have a big family. When I'm at school, like I have my roommates, we're all friends, so it's like I never really was like alone. So I don't know where that fear really came from, but maybe it was like when you go to school for the first time, or like when you're going away from school, even though I didn't go far away from home, it's like you do have that little fear, or maybe you just have like a little moment that you feel like, maybe you're unsafe or whatever it is. And actually, this is funny because it links to your root chakra, which is all about like safety, security, and fear. And so when I was reading actually a book about the different chakras, like I think her name is Judith Endoya. She has like a lot of books about the chakras, but she was saying that they restart sometimes in cycles of your life, and going away to school is one of those times. So it's like, I think that it was a time where that little base was just, it felt different and new because I was never really away from my family or whatever. So there was that whole episode. And then over time, it's like with yoga, again, like it really helps to rebalance all of your chakras. And so it just was a combination of things that I think that brought it back together. But again, to tell you exactly what created that, it could have just been like the fear of being in a new place or being away from home and that sort of thing. I mean, I imagine a lot of students experience that too. I don't know if you had a similar experience, but yeah.
Amazing. And you talked about the gut microbiome, right? And it's a thing that I also had like a previous nutritional kind of like health coach as well talk about it. And she's actually, her main focus and attention is on the gut microbiome. But how, like, because you said then you changed diet and you felt a difference in your body. Can you tell me about that, and kind of like what difference did you notice and what diet worked the best for your body?
Yeah. So again, like what I was going to say was that I don't think that there is a one perfect diet for everybody. Everyone is very different, and there are so many different types of diets that work best for you. But for me personally, I did a lot of experimenting. So especially when I was at school, I think there was like a lot of freedom with that because I lived by myself. I was buying my own groceries. So for some time I was like, okay, completely gluten-free. And I tried that for a little bit. And then there was like, okay, dairy-free. Okay, I tried that. And then I started doing a mix, like dairy-free and gluten-free. So I started doing that. So I tried a lot of different diets and just started to see like what I felt best when I felt my best while I was eating those types of food. I definitely always think that, you know, staying away from refined sugars and white carbs are definitely like a good idea, and make different alternatives for those. But I do think like there is a little bit of experimenting, and that's why like working with a holistic nutritionist is also really important and really great, because they can guide you in the right direction. Because I think that sometimes, you know, people will eat things that maybe aren't really great for them. But for me personally, I think I tried all those different diets, and it really started to help me change, just because, you know, when you're studying a lot too, with like you need food to keep going, and with exercise. So I think that like it really helped me gain more energy. It helped like with my anxiety. It helped me stay more focused in school. It helped like with some brain fog. And so it really, and again, like maintaining my weight, because like I said, I had gained some weight at the beginning, so it helped me like get back on track. So for me, it really made all of the differences. And I do think diet is very, very important. But in terms of like which diet specifically, so like I said, I tried all of those. And at school, it was sustainable and it was fine. I didn't really have any issues. I would maybe have like a little bit of dairy and gluten here and there. It wasn't like, oh my God, no, I won't have that. But when I moved back home with my family again, it's like, okay, that's not possible to sustain, just because like there are so many people in the house, and it's like everyone, you know. So I did start to find, okay, where was I just being a little over the top with myself? What did I actually need? You know what I mean? So, okay, I started to see like, yeah, okay, this food is still okay for me. This food's still okay with me. And then I actually started to realize that something that I was eating all of the time, like eggs, was not good for me. So I actually took that out, and it's like the little things. So now it's like, I don't really eat eggs. I stay away from them as much as possible, but everything else I'm okay with. But again, it's like, it's not very static. So like sometimes if I feel like, you know, I need a little bit of a cleanse, I'll change my diet accordingly. Seasons, sometimes you change your diet accordingly as well. So
and I think you mentioned a good point, because when, or at least I would say from my experience, when I was like kind of living alone and kind of as well experimenting with different diets and finding what's right thing for me. I actually, before I figured out what's the right thing for me, I was like trying to figure out what the right diet is as it's known for the world, till I figured out that there's no one right diet. And then you become you start kind of connecting back to your body. But then when you kind of move back to live with your family, you start to notice that, you know what, okay, I was too hard on myself. You become a bit more lenient, and it's like this anxiety of food and what to eat and what not to eat kind of fades away. So kind of this moving back with our family did actually positively affect my belief systems about food. And you know, it's like, you're not gonna die if you eat this, you know, it's like, calm down, like it's chill. Right?
No, I get that 100%. Like there was a time when I convinced myself like gluten was gonna kill me. But like, okay, I grew up on carbs. Like as an Arab, I was like, pita bread is like basically like you eat, sleep, wake up, like you're eating pita bread. Like, I know. I definitely, I agree that. First of all, I like what you said of like, what was the one right diet? And I think that is a rabbit hole where people can go down, and like, everyone is doing this now, like I need to be doing it too. But sometimes it can be way more harmful for you. For example, like even intermittent fasting, like some people are just like, this is the way to go, blah, blah, blah. But for some, like for females who have some hormonal issues, you know, that can cause more harm than good. So it's like, you need to really, there's no one right diet. And then, you know, you can experiment with yourself, but you could work with a holistic nutritionist or a nutritionist, dietitian, or whatever you want, who will be able to actually find what works best for you specifically. And that way too, it's like, you're not convincing yourself that, you know, this food's going to kill you, or like the anxiety around food, right? I think that's another topic of discussion, is like the anxiety around food, or people's relationship with food, because sometimes we're very like extreme with it. For example, you're just like, I'm not going to eat at all, or like, this food does this to me, or it's like, oh, like I can't eat one cupcake, like I'm gonna get fat, like, you know what I mean? It's like there's a whole thing about that now, and especially like in the nutrition world. And there's a big movement on like intuitive eating. So it's like, okay, if you want to eat the cupcake, like just eat the cupcake, or comparing like nutrition facts between something that people think is really bad versus like something that's not as bad. You know what I mean? It's like, and being in tune with yourself. So for example, for me, it's like, okay, maybe if I start to feel slightly under the weather, it's like, okay, I'll notice that, maybe cut back on like extra sugars and change my diet. So it's like, let's have more inflammatory foods, let's have more immune boosting foods, you know? So it's like listening to yourself, or if you have like a stomach ache, you know, it's not like automatically taking like a Tums, or I don't know what you could take for a stomach ache. But it's like not just like diagnosing it and covering it up, but it's just being like, okay, why did that happen? What did I eat today that might have caused this stomach ache? Is this something that I'm seeing like over time? Maybe it's a specific type of food that doesn't work for you, you know? So it's like just learning to listen to your body and work, like, that, I think that's definitely a big part of it.
Do you think everyone cares enough to work through this? Because I think there are a few people, like for me, I'm curious about this. Like I actually spend time and energy to figure out what works for me. I spend time and like figuring out like things that excite me, things that don't, do kind of like definitely it's an ongoing journey, but you slowly start to work on figuring things out about you. Do you think everyone at one point is going to want to do this?
I think there is a possibility that at one point they may be curious and try, but do I think that everyone does it all the time or from the start? No. I think that definitely either people are very like they can just not want to think about it themselves, and they would just go to like a doctor and be like, hey, I have a headache, what's going on? And the doctor's like, okay, like I'll just give you this for it. But it's like maybe the person doesn't drink enough water and doesn't realize, or like doesn't think like, oh my god, I don't even drink water throughout the day. You know what I mean? Like it's little things like that. I mean, I think it's really great to have that curiosity with yourself, like how you were saying, is that, you know, because it is you and it's your body and you know yourself best. So it's like to be encouraged to just educate yourself and to be able to have like that knowledge, which is also like power to take control of your health and your mind and your body, I think is very important.
Do you find it like a challenge to connect with people who are not, so are kind of not into that field? Do you find it like challenging to communicate with them, engage with them?
Yeah, sometimes I definitely do sometimes. Especially just because maybe some people don't see like much of an emphasis on it, or like don't think that it's as important, or like they're like, oh, what I eat doesn't matter or whatever. But like for me, I personally think that it does. So it's a little tricky there. However, I do think that, you know, part of what I want to do as like a holistic nutritionist and like a health coach is really, first of all, like educate and inform so that people will be able to make the best choices for themselves, like by knowing, you know, like for me, I think I developed that whole issue with my gut and with my mental health because I didn't know any better, you know, like no one told me taking all those antibiotics was going to be a problem, or like taking Accutane is going to have an effect, or, you know, not eating properly at school or whatever it is, you know, like not exercising and not having a proper like mental health kind of routine for myself. No one really said that, and I didn't know because I was just so caught up with what everyone else was doing, and I wasn't really paying attention to myself. But it's like, okay, when I did start to learn more about it, read more about it, or, you know, pay attention to it more, I was like, oh, this is what was going on. It could have been so easily avoided, you know?
So thank you so much for your time. Like it took so much time, but I just have the final question. What does success mean to you?
That's a very good question. I would say if it's like you mean like what to be successful, or just if something is a success?
So for you, if you were to define yourself as a successful person, not what society defines as success, but you define as success, what would that definition of success mean for you?
Okay. I think for me, it means that I am happy in my life, first of all. Like happiness is definitely the number one thing. And if I I have a purpose, like I'm doing something good for myself and for others, that makes me feel fulfilled as well. So it's like I feel fulfilled doing this for like the greater good of humanity. And then at the same time, having a good relationship with people in my life and friends, I think that is a success. I like envision like myself in the kitchen just being like success. Or like even if I made like a delicious meal that day, like I would say that's a success as well. It could be like levels. Some days I can be like, today just having this juice or like this delicious meal is a success. Or other days it's just like, all right, be good for myself and humanity. It's a success.
Of course. But you mentioned happiness though. What does happiness mean to you? Because you said happy, like happiness could be into some people like financially overabundant. Like what is happiness to you?
Oh yeah. For me, happiness is like, I was just thinking about like me smiling in my day-to-day, like just like having a good time every day. I think for me, I guess like financial wise, it's like to make sure that you're just like comfortable, that you can, do your thing, but that doesn't really define like happiness for me. I truly, I think when like I'm at my happiest is like when mentally I am at my best state. So it's not like based on anything externally. It's very much like internally of like, okay, maybe like biologically making sure that everything like chemically is going well, but that like I feel content and satisfied like with where I am in my life. Like, did I achieve what I wanted to achieve? Like, and the other big part is like relationships. If I'm in conflict or not having good relationships with people around me, then it's like very difficult for me to be happy. But if I do feel just like more love, like then it's like, okay, you're happy. Like, really.
So the thing is, it becomes harder to love other people if you cannot love yourself. So I think it all goes back to like self-love, and then you can radiate this stuff to other people as well.
Totally, 100%. Like, it's very hard because, how can you really love someone else if you don't even really love yourself, you know? But there are so many great ways to show yourself love. And it's also like the thing with the 5 love languages, when people are always looking at that from others, but it's like, do you speak to yourself in your own love language?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like, quality time is your thing. Are you constantly searching that in your partner and then upset if they're not giving that to you? But are you even spending quality time with yourself? You know? So it's like, okay. I think that's also a good thing. Like when you do love yourself, there's a little bit more like self-awareness and self-reflection, and then it causes less problems with others because you can think about it yourself, and then you're more like aware of what the other person may be going through or feeling as well. And like relationships naturally get better that way too.
100%. And so thank you so much for your time. Where should people connect with you?
Where can people connect with me? Instagram. So my Instagram is Kristine Faza, with a K. And I do have a Twitter as well. I have a TikTok, all of that fun stuff. My company, my yoga company with my 2 co-founders, my co-founding friends, it's TAV Community. I guess we'll just put all of the links as well. And then for my little oils company, it's the Muldahara Wellness Company. So we can put the link for that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And honestly, as a chat, it's so exciting to talk to you always. And for everyone listening, I hope you all have an amazing, awesome rest of your day.